Rift of Nations Session 20 is my homebrew campaign, and we got another breakdown. Session 20 is a big deal, y'all. You know what I'm saying? So here is the breakdown of what I thought was going to happen, which I prepared for ever so greatly in this one. I have a brand new approach to this whole campaign as far as game prep, and it paid off beautifully. In the last like 5 or so sessions, I've been continuously pushing and trying out. I have some videos coming up for this, but I wanted to really test it myself before I made a video on it. I always try and do that. So this breakdown is of session 20 of what happened, and then so it was a really fun session. Like, we laughed so hard. Probably we laughed the most in this session, which is not necessarily, you know, game prep wise, but just the level of connection to the story and the characters in the story, and then them to each other. There's a lot of table talk back and forth with each other. It's been really cool. It's been really cool. So without further ado, here's gonna go old Notion page. So session 20, this is what I had right here. This is what I had for to get ready for the session. I knew that to recap, they just finished a huge mass combat, literally a huge mass combat, and the dust settled, and they are going to head back to their nation's capital of Aldor and see what happens from there, right? So I had broken up into phases, and I had different things, different scenes happen at each of these phases. I had before leaving, so like before they head off, they're at this place where they just did war. They're going to have 1 day's rest there to kind of gather themselves before they head back. That's phase 1, before leaving. Then on the road from point A to point B, it's 7 days worth of travel. I'm not going to roll each one of those out. They did a whole long session of travel. If you've stayed with me through all these episodes, there's been a whole long session of travel to get here, and backtracking through it, I hand wave the days and just describe stuff happening and just little story beats is on it. If they wanted to chime in, they could chime in and say they did stuff. A lot of really cool stuff happened there on their own player initiative, not as in combat initiative, as in their own choice to say stuff and do stuff. So it was cool to see what they wanted to test out and engage with, because there's lots of things they have. They have an entire book with a lot of lore answers in it. They didn't really touch that one. They have an entire different set of magic items that they don't know how they do. They played around with some of the magic items, and I told them what they did. Because for me, instead of saying, this magic item does this, I want them to spend time to learn how they work. And so one of the characters spent almost all 7 days figuring out how this magic item works. And through that, them spending and choosing to spend their time on that, they unlocked and learned it, right? So I could rant about that whole thing. But anyway, they had some time on the road to themselves. Then they arrive at Aldor. Lots of big stuff happens there. Then they have downtime. Then there's triggered issues that could happen during downtime, or if they start to poke on it. And then at the end of downtime, I had all this ready. So what actually happened? What actually happened? I wanted to leave things open enough for them to do whatever they wanted and travel and engage with whatever they wanted. And I wanted to and I told this, and my players know me well enough, but I still preface it beforehand. I'm going to say stuff is happening. I'm going to keep saying it's happening. And when it ends, it ends. And if y'all want to stop and interject me, cool, go for it. But I'm going to say that you see stuff. I'm going to say that as you travel, things are going to be on the sides. Whatever you want to engage with, go for it. Whatever you don't want to, just let me say it, and we keep on traveling, right? So, and I think that's important to be able to say this, because there's some things that I described and said that they completely ignored, and it could have been some big stuff. So here we go. That was what I prepared for, and here's what happened. I had a scene with Clara and her father, who she found out she was reunited with her father. They had a little moment where he taught her some stuff. They had some cool things, because I'm trying to build back up the relationship that was severed, but I want it to happen naturally and not just be this forced thing about like, oh, hey, I'm your father that left because I got my mind wiped, etc. Right? Again, you'd have to watch the backstory videos and all of that. But I gave them a little moment of a cool, positive moment to then have like a father-daughter moment, a little bit, like in a magical tinkering type way, right? And then I gave the players a choice. I gave them players a choice if they wanted to become wanderers, right? And that it's an entire nation of people, and they would be leaving their tech nation to go to the wanderers, which is their own like rebel nation, if you want to call it that, and they would get marked with a tattoo on their back to symbolize and literally lock them in as a symbol of being a wanderer. And I was interested to see if they were able to mark themselves to side with the Wanderers. And this whole direction that the campaign has gone, the nat 20 with the Wanderers back in like session like 5 or 6 or something, and all of this direction they've gone with the Wanderers, it's very fitting for them to all agree to do it. And they all were all in on it. And I was like, wow, they are really going to be part of the Wanderers. This is crazy. Just wait till you get to the end and what happened at the end. So they had a casualty report of who died. They did a whole bunch of stuff beforehand. Now they get onto the road. On the road, I send a secret message to Darius. I had a little text message. I had the text message queued up. I sent it to him, and it just described, you get a note one night on your table from the, and so I want to see what they do with that, but we'll see if they do anything with that. The other players don't even know about it. And I had some interesting little role play things sprinkled in there at the table, because your table is going to have a wide variety of different people at the table, and I want to make sure to engage with the players in different ways. So there's a player, the Warforged of the group, very stern, sturdy person. I wanted to kind of poke at him a little bit and have some other people from the militia come up to him and interact with him, just to kind of keep everybody engaged. And then Clara has some interesting moments of like artificering and tinkering. So I weave in things across each of the 4 players to like, oh, hey, this happens with you, this happens with you, this happens with you, just to kind of give some flavor as across with travel. And if players chime in, they want to do something else, they can go for it as well. Cool. Now, this was a big moment that they completely passed up on. I'm showing you. They completely passed up on this, and I was like, oh, dang. And this is why my game master prep is amazing. And I'm not saying that like it's. I'm starting to see the benefits of this methodology that I'm using. So this is a side thing. I didn't know if they're going to do it or not. So I half-ass prepped it, if that makes sense. And that might sound lazy or whatever. Props to lazy DMs out there and that whole thing. And here's what I mean by that. I did not know if they were going to do this or not. So I quickly drew up a map already that I had prepared, because I don't like to draw maps live. And I had, do I have it with me? I don't. I had a note card, literally a sticky note this big that had general outline of mechanics. There was a thing off to the side, and they came back and they backtracked through the same place where they saw this big side cliff face with these rune symbols on it that they now know. They now know those rune symbols mean it's sealing away something evil. And I was like, ooh, are they going to go fight it? Nope. Didn't go fight it. I had a whole prepare. It was like a rock caster that was going to summon rock dragons against them to fight. And it was a super cool mechanic. I can't wait to throw it at them, because at some point I will. But that really cool fight, now I have that in my back pocket. I can put that fight anywhere, right? Or leave it right there. Or now this mystery box of what's inside of this seal could now be something else. And as a dungeon master, I want to stay fluid with that, not to like, pull the rug out from under them, but just keep the story alive and keep all my ammo bits. What's in that box? Who knows what's in that box? Now it could be that rock dragon summoning person with a super cool mechanics to it. Or it could be something else if it fits the story better as we continue to go down this weird road that these players are taking. But they skipped over it. But I had a branching path here. I had a choice. I gave the players an unknowing choice. If they went and fought that and defeated it, cool, they would go and they'd move on. If they didn't go that way, I was going to have them Ivar attempt to be kidnapped at night. So they skipped over this, which activated my trap card, and I did this to them. So Ivar's attempted to be kidnapped. This was going to be very interesting. I was all improvising this off the fly too. I did not have specifics laid out for this, because I feel like I'm confident enough as a dungeon master to run these type of things on the fly. But they all had I said they all rolled a d20. I said, everybody roll a d20 for me at night. And also I did this just to be fair. I said, all right, so now for this travel and all this whole thing, I'm going to make a travel check. And I just had a d20. This is a fate roll. I'm going to roll a d20. High, smooth sailing. Low, something bad's going to happen, and we'll see what happens, right? I rolled in front of the table. I rolled a 4. Here we go. I just asked everybody what they're doing at night and all this kind of stuff to kind of set the stage. And I was like, okay, everybody roll a d20. I have their perception check modifiers on the back end and all this kind of stuff. And they all rolled super bad and terrible. All of them, no one rolled higher than a 10. So Ivar's going to get kidnapped. So I described to Ivar, I changed the music. I described to Ivar, he gets picked up and somebody's casting stuff on him. There's a guy behind you and there's a guy in front of you starting to cast a spell on you. Roll for initiative. And it was just him versus them. I rolled an 18. He rolled a 19. And then he has a chance to go. And so here's how I ran this thing. I said, you have extra attack. He said, I want to try and like headbutt the guy behind me and kick the guy in front of me. I said, you have extra attack. Do you want to put both attacks on one or one on each? And he was like, one on each. So I had him do an attack roll against the DC, right? These are just things as a dungeon master. I felt like this was right in this moment. So the DC was 15, and he has to make an attack roll at each of them with a DC of 15. I know it's weird to make an attack roll out as a DC or whatever, but it fits, right? And I said, which one are you going to first? So he succeeded on this one, but failed on this one. So he knocks the guy out for there to be some sort of sound, but he gets, the spell goes off, and I have him make a wisdom saving throw. He fails it and he passes out, right? But he was able to deal some damage to the person. I want to see if anyone noticed. So I was like, I need everybody. This is your last chance. I specified this. I set that bar at the table. I said, this is your last chance to try and see if, and wake up. If you notice Ivar, there's some sort of noise happen. Do you wake up? This is just a flat perception check. And I know there's sleep, so it could be a disadvantage, but I didn't want to be too mean. So I felt like this was fair. Everybody roll a d20, and I want to see if y'all notice this. So the rolls happen, and Q, the Warforged Barbarian, Wild Magic Barbarian, natural 20. I was like, oh my gosh, wow. And I told them, I was like, guys, if y'all failed, because the other two people failed miserably, if y'all failed, y'all would have woken up and Ivar would be missing. Just for the record, just letting you guys know, y'all would have woke up and Ivar would be missing. And I was completely prepared to throw that at them. And sometimes I think it's nice to let your players know what could have happened and what these crazy paths that could have been, right? But he natural 20s. He's a Wild Magic Barbarian. I said, I need you to roll another d20 for me. And he's rolling on his Wild Magic table. I have a Wild Magic Barbarian. I'm going to make a video on it soon, I promise. But it's a d20 Wild Magic Surge table for the Barbarian of 20 different rages he can enter. And man, he entered into a nature rage where vine, nature magic, and flowers and stuff all start sparking out of him and everything. And he just spurred up into action. Vines lift him off the ground, and he has a chance to do it. And so they have this whole interim back and forth. Long story short, they end up capturing both of them after some really interesting and epic moments of some interesting stuff with the Wild Magic Surge Nature Barbarian and the Nature caster, then doing nature stuff together in this really interesting moment, because his Wild Magic Surge matched up with the actual spellcaster of the group's nature magic. So it was really cool combos there. But anyway, they capture these people and they interrogate them, and they had a very smart interrogation. One of the triggers that I had for these NPCs, I had a list of NPCs, is being found out, being discovered, other people knowing about this secret organization. So as soon as these people came up and said, these guards were like, hey, what's going on? If they had been like, no, everything's fine, it's okay, they would have not gotten a thing out of them, not a thing. But because they're like, yeah, let the captain know, bring her over. They didn't even know that they triggered these NPCs key feature, and they're like, no, just don't, no, we'll tell you whatever you need, just don't let them come here. So then one of the players runs interference, and there's a whole hilarious moment that happened with that, and we were just crying, laughing at the table because of the way that he tried to buy time and just confuse wow. But anyway, they got a lot of information out of these people, and they found out a lot of information. These two people that tried to kidnap Ivar, by the way, were the Dreamers, a secret organization of dream magic people that are trying to contain all the nightmare energy that's happening in this homebrew situation, homebrew world, and the whatever. So they are the good guys, and they are trying to contain the nightmare energy. And this is from Ivar's backstory. He found this place that had this person was casting magic to seal away something, but he didn't know what they were doing. He thought they were trying to open a door when really they were trying to seal it away, and some of that nightmare energy leaked out and hit him, and it's infected him now, and all this other stuff. So they learned a lot of stuff from some clever decisions that they made, found out a bunch of stuff, and now they set them free. They let them loose back out into the world, which is also now them trusting these people. So they're going to get more brownie points with these people. Really cool. And then they arrive to Aldor. They get to the city, and here it is, right? They get to Aldor, and then the deck of big things, the deck of many big things. What I have on this list is a bunch of things that could possibly happen, and they draw a card. I don't have the cards on me. They draw a card from a deck. Joker through king or ace or whatever. No, it's Joker, ace. Ace is a 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through. And good or bad things happen. And they drew a 9. The amazing thing about the game of Dungeons and Dragons, they drew a 9. The player whose backstory is the Dreamers, and the player who has the whole backstory involved with the Dreamers, the player who tried to get kidnapped just seconds ago, is the one who draws the card. He draws a 9, and the 9 card is the Dreamers reveal themselves to the world, and or through the players, right? And that just happened in the world. Literally, I'm marking it as red right now. Like, that just happened in the world, and he drew that card. How crazy is that? How it's insane. It's insane that the things that happen in this game with these coincidences. So I thought that was really cool. I'm going to dial that up to 10. I made a note of it, but I'm going to really in fact, I'm going to really make a note of that, just to make sure, because I want these things to hit the world. Dreamers revealed. Cool. So he has sparked that into the world. So I like to throw these curveballs with this deck of big things. Anytime there's like a big moment where like something cool could happen here, I have them draw from the deck. And then something might happen immediately, or something might be looming in the background. Who knows? So that was a cool little moment here. And then they get a meeting with the king. And to fast forward through the meeting with the king, they thought do we go now? We could go tomorrow. We have some stuff to take care of. And they're like, it's up to you. I gave them a free choice, and they wanted to talk to the king now, get it over with. And talking with the king, it was going great. He's like, the Warforged revealed himself, and now he's talking about the Warforged, Q the barbarian. He's talking with them about all this different type of stuff, and everything's going great. And then one of the last notes I had here on my chart here is nation is right here. The nations are asking me about other things, and Clara's father knows the location of the Warforged. She did not know that he knows the location of the Warforged, but she was like, he asked, wait, your father knows from some things that they were revealing and stuff. He's like, your father knows the location. Are you able to be are you in contact with your father? And she literally just was in contact with her father. She has a tech device on her arm that can reach out to him in a moment's notice to reach out to her father. And the player at the table goes, I kind of like look around to the rest of the group to see. And I was like, oh, wow. So she's telegraphing it. Wow. So I hit her with it. I gave her disadvantage on the roll. I said, I need you to make a deception check. At disadvantage because you just looked around awkwardly at everybody to like, do we tell him? And so she rolls the check, natural 1. Oh, wow. Wow. This is a moment for dungeon masters and to let the dice tell the story. And they have came so far and done so much and have all these things, but they have just rolled a natural 1 on a deception check to deceive the king of the army that they work for, to lie about the location of, because what he said is, I have the key. Like, he showed them he has the dream crystal that activates the Warforged. Each of the 10 nations have a dream crystal. Each of the 10 nations have a Warforged. He has the dream crystal to activate the Warforged to be like a great defense to their nation. But he doesn't know where the Warforged is. That's part of the checks and balances, is one person was given the crystal, one person was given the location of the Warforged, and they need to both agree to be able to activate it. Almost like 2 keys to, you know what I'm saying? So he doesn't know where the Warforged is. And the person that you get the idea. The person that knows where the Warforged is her dad. She knows her dad, and she natural 1 lied to him about it. So he goes, the fighter Ivar of the group spoke up, and he was like, hey, so they're trying to speak up and say, and I like kind of yelled at the table, not like I just said silence, or like stuff, like I was like really super rude to the player, just for reference, just to show the king's like pissed now. I was like, you guys notice that a turn of a dime, he's not even the same person anymore. He is flames in his eyes, super focused, and he looks at you and says, guards, seize her. And that's where we're going to end the session. So she is going to get arrested and kidnapped, and I guess that wouldn't be kidnapped. It's the king and their guards arresting them, and she's going to get arrested, full on arrested. He's they are taking control of the situation. So I'm gonna have a battle map ready. I'm gonna have everything going, and I'm going to also send my players a message expressing to them how serious this is and what's about to happen. Like, he's going to take her to prison, and he said that. You know, I'm not telling them anything meta, but I'm making sure they understand she's getting taken away, and I want to see if they throw down, and that will be very interesting to see if that goes down. But that will be a story for another time and another episode of Rift of Nations. If you like these videos, like them, share them. This is my second channel, but I do a lot of the big stuff on the main channel. And if you want to support this stuff to make it grow even more, I want to do weekly episodes. I want to stream these things and show the gameplay and like stream the whole thing. But there's goals over on Patreon that we got to be able to hit so that I can bring on enough people to be able to have that happen. Because right now it would be impossible to be able to do all that kind of stuff. So appreciate the support. Thanks for loving up these videos. I love sharing with you guys the behind the scenes of these episodes or this campaign, this homebrew campaign. 20 sessions in. So stay creative. I guess out of the box.